Hi, I'm Chuck with In the Ditch. You know, over 12 years ago, I stood in this very spot and introduced the In the Ditch Speed Dolly to our towing industry. Now, over a decade later, I'm back again and as excited as ever to introduce our X-Series line of dollies. We believe that this is the most advanced dolly in the world. And the proof of that is in some of the details that I'm going to go over with you. Before we get into the dolly, I want to talk a little bit about the last 12 years and what it means to me. And hopefully it'll mean something to you, and that is commitment. You know, being able to stand here over a decade later, continuing to talk about the In the Ditch brand of dollies should validate to everybody out there that In the Ditch is in this for the long haul. You know, we're not a fly-by-night company that is here today, gone tomorrow. I made my living in the ditch right there with you. I owned my own towing company for over 15 years, and I really felt that the towing industry was really neglected when it came to innovation and products, and I really felt strongly that we could bring game-changing products to the industry and products that could help make people's lives easier. I fully understand that the quality of products that we build have a direct influence on your quality of life. I put my kids through college, and that's how I continue to feed my family, is in the towing industry. And we have such a passion for what we do that it just radiates from everybody at In the Ditch. And to be able to stand here and introduce what I feel is the most advanced dolly in the world all those years later is something I'm extremely proud of, and I hope you are too. Now, with all that being said, let's talk about this bad boy. We offer this dolly in two styles of hub, one that you grease and one that you never have to grease. And we're going to start with this one. And we refer to this hub as our XL hub, which stands for extended life. And what we did is we reached out to the automotive industry and had a car parts manufacturer build a hub for us that fit our dolly. We used an automotive grade sealed bearing and hub that never needs greased, it never needs maintenance for the life of the dolly. If any of you out there are driving a small or mid-sized car that's front wheel drive, odds are you have this same hub on the back. And as you know, most automobiles have the potential to go 100,000, 200,000 miles and never need a hub. Now, in the event that the hub ever goes bad, you're just going to remove the nut, slide the hub off, and put a new one on. It's that simple. You can buy this dolly with this hub on it and have extreme confidence that you'll never need to grease it its entire life. The other style of hub that we're offering on our X-Series dollies is what we call our SLX Hub. And this is a little bit more price sensitive. However, it does require periodic greasing and maintenance of it. But the neat thing about this is you don't have to disassemble it. With our Speed Lube Spindle that we make it In the Ditch, there's a grease zerk right here at the end. Periodically, when it's time to add more grease to it, you just pump the grease into the grease zerk, and as you fill up the hub, it pushes the old grease out the front, and you're good to go. Now it's time to talk about the features and benefits of our X-Series dollies. You know, many people out there say the manufacturers don't listen to them. But I'm here to tell you, we listened to you and we heard you when you said you wanted us to develop a bolt-on spindle assembly. So what we did is we wanted to achieve quite a few things. Number one, we wanted it to be strong and safe. Number two, we didn't want you to have to lubricate it or spend any time greasing it. And number three, we wanted to make it easy to replace. So the key to it is our engineers developed our own exclusive pivot pin bolt right here. And we made this thing out of stainless steel. So that gives it lots of strength. It helps reduce the corrosion on it. And when it comes to the lubrication, what we did is we reached out to the aerospace industry and we found a company that would manufacture these bushings for us. Now at first glance, these just look like a regular nylon bushing. But I'm here to tell you, they have incredible lubrication properties, and our tests show that they actually outlast the stainless steel pin. As you can see here on our test stand, we ran over 10,000 cycles at full load on it, and the pin wore out before the bushings wore out. Another neat thing about these bushings is that they have a self-lubricating property. So what I mean by that is if the pin should ever start to wear or start to develop any gall marks on it or grooves in it, as the pin rubs through the nylon deposits itself back onto the pin and smooths it out and continues to make it operate very smoothly. So you absolutely, I can stand right here on camera and tell you, these bushings have the potential to last an entire lifetime, generations if you will, on this dolly and never wear out. Now, heaven forbid, for some reason they do wear out, they're very easy to replace. You just remove the pin, pop the bushings out and pop them back in. This is something we're extremely proud to bring to our industry. Okay, now we're going to talk about some of the other things. And this feature right here, many of you that have been using our dollies are very familiar with our cam lock. And what's so neat about our cam lock is there's not a lot of moving parts. It's disengaged, you cam the spindle over, and then you engage it. It's that simple. There's no springs to get lost, no gizmos, no levers, none of that. It's just very simple to use. The one thing that we did do on our X-Series is we did machine in more of a positive stop right here. That's something we think all of you are going to really like from our old dollies. Another neat thing about our dollies that hasn't changed in the last decade, and it was really one of the drivers for me to really want to build a safer dolly, a better dolly, and that is our cam over design. As you can see, as the tire comes through the arc and we cam the tire over, it goes past center. Now the neat thing about that is when you go to release the cam lock to lower the car, you can unlock the cam lock without fear. The wheel's not going to fly up and the dolly drop to the ground. It can't do it because it goes past center. And that's one of the reasons that we received a patent on this design, is the way that all of this mechanism works together to help prevent cars from catastrophically falling and possibly injuring an operator. Now we're going to talk a little bit about the breakover bar. Now, this may not seem like a lot to you, and I do want to point out this little shorty is for demonstration purposes, but we make our breakover bar out of hollow tubing. And we did that to try to make it a little bit lighter and easier on you, the operator. We also use a solid billet piece of steel here in the end. But for years, the receiver portion that we stuck this in was made out of square tubing, and it was something that, you know, I wasn't very satisfied with, our engineers weren't very satisfied with, but we really didn't have any other good ideas at the time. So as time progressed, we made the investment into some CNC machinery so we could overcome this problem, and we're really proud to introduce our new solid billet breakover bar receiver. By machining this thing out of billet steel, we're able to control the exact size of the hole. So when you put the breakover bar in, you get that exact right fill. It spreads the load around the hole just right. And you really notice this when you're walking our dolly to the vehicle or when you're camming it over. You have a real nice fill on the breakover bar. And it's something that, you know, that maybe many people overlook, and maybe it doesn't matter to some, but we know the thought and energy that went into just that little portion of our dolly. And we think that it's going to really make a difference on you as you go out and perform your job day in and day out. Now we're going to talk about the handle. Now this may seem insignificant to some of you out there, but to me, this is a big integrated part of the success of our dolly, and that came through ergonomics. So we wanted to create a dolly that was very balanced when you carried it, that the tires weren't leaning in or out, something that would help kind of help keep your body posture more in line, help try to reduce some back injuries. I really felt that the earlier dollies that I had used from other people were really lacking in the ergonomics department. But to validate this, we sent our dolly off to Boise State University to the engineering department and had them do test on the ergonomics, and they compared our dollies to others out there, and I'm really excited to say that ours, hands down, is the most ergonomic dolly out there. Now, not only is the dolly handle centered on the CG, or the center of gravity, it also has a really large billet aluminum handle, and we did that for a couple reasons. The first reason we wanted a big handle was to make it very easy in your hand. A lot of older or current dollies use a little bitty round rod, and when you're picking up a heavy dolly, that rod's not very comfortable on your hand. So we designed a big billet aluminum grab handle. We made it wide in between here, so if you have a gloved hand on, it fits and works very nice. We also made it out of aluminum to help reduce the weight. And something I want to point out is that our new XL dolly is 5 pounds lighter than the models that we were producing last year. Now we're going to talk a little bit about vehicle securement, and there seems to be a lot of myths out in the industry as whether or not you need to secure a vehicle to the dolly or secure the dolly to the vehicle. And the correct answer is absolutely. You must secure this dolly to the casualty that you're towing at all times when you're underway. Now we put these two holes in here so that you can hook your ratchet strap directly into these holes. You don't hook them onto the handle, you put them into this specific tie down location. Ratchet strap goes up and around the tire and hooks back in this side. You ratchet the vehicle down and you keep it secure. Now when it comes to looks, everybody out there wants something that not only looks good, but has the durability to hold up to all of the salt spray. And when you think about a dolly, this thing's running down on the pavement, and if it's in the winter like it is out here right now, there's a lot of magnesium chloride, calcium chloride, there's salts on the road, and this dolly's just running right through all of that stuff, getting sandblasted. It's really hard to get a finish that'll hold up. Lately, it's been plating. We've been doing this yellow zinc chromate finish. A lot of people really like it, but we knew we could do something better. So this year, we've switched over to powder coating. And we can show you the data where our powder coating is lasting 2 times the life cycle of what normal paint was lasting. And it's also lasting 1.5 times on the salt spray test that the plating is lasting. So we really feel that by switching to this new powder coating system that we have, that we can give you looks and durability all in one package. Now, of course, if you want your dolly in the yellow zinc plating, we're still going to offer it in that finish as well. If you do order it in a zinc yellow chromate finish, the spindles will be powder coated. We really like the look, and we think it's a really good finish on this. A dolly set isn't complete without a set of axles. And we've been building aluminum axles now for over a decade, and in that period, we've built tens of thousands of axles. And in that time, we've learned a lot about axles, and we really feel that we've brought a lot of technology into our new X-Series axles. And we've had to make some decisions along the way. And one of the things that we've learned, and one of the decisions that we made, is whether or not we should be doing aluminum axles or steel axles. And we really felt, well, not that we felt, we know that aluminum axles are on par in strength with steel axles. How do we know that? Well, we did FEA analysis on our computer, which is finite element analysis. We went out and tested these things in our test stands, and overall, our mechanical engineers all unanimously felt that it was in the best interest of not only in the ditch, but our customers, that we only offer aluminum axles. So moving forward, our X-Series aluminum axle will be the only axle that we offer. Now, some of the notable things about our axle that makes it pretty unique to the industry. The first thing you'll see is that we use Huck brand rivets to bond the axle cap to the axle. Now, what you don't see is in between the steel and the aluminum, we actually put a nylon shim in there, and what that does is it reduces electrolysis, and electrolysis occurs between steel and aluminum. When you have dissimilar metals like that, it can cause a corrosion factor. So by putting that insulation, if you will, in there and bonding that, we can help really reduce that. In fact, in over a decade, it's never even been an issue. So we know we got something going on good right here. The other thing we've done is we've designed in a really nice tire plate. And if you look at this thing, you'll see that there was some thought put into it. We also have a slot right in here so that we have some accessories now that you can add onto your axles, and I'll talk about that a little bit later. Another neat thing about our axles is that we've gone 100% exclusively to our positive camber design, and that's something that we came up with about 5 years ago. We've been offering our positive camber as an option, but ultimately we came to really feeling that when we came out with our X-Series Dollies, we wanted to offer the absolute best we could. And we know in our hearts that offering a positive camber axle is the right thing to do. And that's why moving forward, this is the only axle we're going to offer. And what positive camber axle means is, if I were to hold my hands up, as you're running straight, if your wheels on the dolly are like this is a neutral camber. You're in a zero camber position. When you go and lean them out, you're now in a positive camber, and if the wheels were to lean in, you're in a negative camber. Now, ideally for optimum tire wear, you're going to want to run with a zero camber where the tires are straight up and down. So what happens is, with older design dolly axles, when you loaded up the car, before you put the weight on it, the tires were straight up and down on the dolly. As you added weight, the tires tilted in to a negative camber situation. And then as you drove or towed the vehicle down the road, you had the potential to wear out one side of the dolly tire. What we did is we designed in positive camber. And what that is if you really look at our axle cap, when you install the dolly on it, your dollies are going to be leaning out in a positive camber situation. And what that does is it kind of pre-stresses the aluminum axle. It kind of puts some tension on it, starts to create an arc in the axle. It's very hard to see, but it is there. Then when you load the car up and you weight the axles up and the dollies come up into the loaded position with the load on it, now your tires are running in a neutral or zero camber position, and that's the best possible position to carry the most amount of weight and to help prevent premature tire wear. So you can see what led us to want to only offer the positive camber axles. Now the question's going to come up, can I use positive camber axles on my older in the ditch dollies? And the answer is yes, if you use them as a pair. You wouldn't want to run a positive camber axle with a standard duty or a standard style axle. But we're going to have an online, you can go to our website and we have some clear PDFs on there that show you how to identify axles, or you can call us and we're going to help you through that. The other neat thing that we did, and I had mentioned earlier in the dolly video that people say manufacturers don't listen, and we really do listen. And for years, towers and our customers have been reaching out to us saying, geez, I wish you'd make a wider axle. And we've been a little bit slow to respond to that. And the reason is because we wanted to make sure we had all of the data and all of our facts. And we wanted to make sure we had all of our testing out of the way. With our new X-Series Dolly, all the testing's done, all the data's in, and we've now made it a wider axle. And we've done that by adding this 5th adjustment hole. Now, what's kind of neat about this is those of you that have previous in the ditch axles that are positive camber, you'll only have 4 adjustment holes. On our X-Series Dolly, we kept those adjustment holes in the same exact spot. So if you have an older positive camber axle dolly, you can use this axle as a direct replacement. Moving forward, we've added this 5th hole, which makes the axle a little over 2 inches wider. And that brings it out to 102 inches wide, the total dolly combination, which is really the legal limit in width that we can possibly go. Now, as I lay the axle back over, I want to talk a little bit more about the axle caps. As you can see right here, we have this little T welded on the top. And a lot of people ask us what that's for. Well, that is, it helps you to lift the axle up when you're setting it in and out of the dolly. And for those of you that are running a tunnel box, we make a tunnel box slide mount. As you can see here, you just hook the axle on it, slide it into the tunnel box and hang it up. It's been a really popular item, and it really is a nice way to store your axles out of the way. Now I want to talk about the snap button on our X-Series axles. We're making our snap button now out of stainless steel, and we put a really radius domed on here. And for those of you that have used dollies and other brands of dollies out there that use the flat top, you know in order to extend the axle, you got to get something to jab in there. So that's why we really worked on doming this. We've also found out our snap buttons had the potential of getting corroded running down into magnesium chloride and calcium chloride. So we switched our snap button pin over to complete stainless steel, as well as the spring, and we made it really easy to change the springing in and out, and we'll show you that here in a little bit. But this is kind of a neat feature about our dolly that maybe people don't know about, and I want to show you something. So the way to telescope our axle fast when you're out on the side of the road is to put your foot on the bottom of the axle, you depress the plunger pin, pull it out a little bit, and then you're going to just rotate the outer axle tube slightly. And when you do that, it aligns the pin to the side of the holes so it doesn't lock in every hole. And then you can just quickly telescope the axle all the way out, and then you can just lock it into the bottom hole. Then if you want to just hop from hole to hole, you can just push the pin in and you can go to each hole. But if you want to use the quick adjust feature, you push the plunger pin in, twist the axle slightly, and now it'll slide all the way down. When you get back to the home position, just relax that outer axle and the pin locks in. It's something that's just really quick and easy to use. Now I'm going to show you how easy it is to change out the snap button. Again, just step on the axle cap, depress the snap button, twist the outer axle tube, slide it all the way by, and then we're going to go ahead and pull the axle completely off. Now that we have the outer axle off, you can see here we've got the snap button in the end of the axle. And to change it out, it's quite simple. So what you want to do is depress it and just pull it out like that. And installing it's just the opposite. You just stick it in here, squeeze it together, pop it in, and you're done. It's really that simple. We wanted to make everything on our dollies easy to change so you could do it out on the road or out in the field. Okay, now that we've kind of finished with the axle, I'm going to set it up here, and I'm going to show you something new to our industry, and we call this the speed spacer. And for years when I was towing, it was always challenging how to deal with a car with flat tires. And there's lots of different techniques out there. You can put a chain across here, you can put 2x4s in there, but none of them are really like a proven method that you could teach your drivers to go out and do. So you had some consistency in it. So we developed the speed spacer. And the way this thing works is when you have a flat tire and you need to build up space, you just slide the spacer on like this and it locks into place. We do have a little slot right here where we have a bolt where we want you to bolt this on here just to make sure it doesn't ever come off, but it's literally that quick. Once you take the vehicle off, pull the bolt out, you just lift the speed spacer out of the way. It's really something that we're absolutely quite proud to bring to our industry. I want to talk a little bit about tires, wheels, air pressures, and capacities of our X-Series of dolly. So we offer our X-Series dolly in two styles. One is with a 3,040 pound rating, and that's with this tire and wheel combo. And the other one is in a 4,000 pound rating on our high capacity XD dolly, and that's achieved with this tire and wheel combination. But some of the things that I really want to point out to you about tires and tire safety and tire inspection. So in order for this particular tire and wheel combination has a rating of 1,040 pounds, each tire and wheel, at 100 PSI. This one has a 760 pound load rating at 90 PSI. So one of the things that you need to understand is for this tire to carry 1,040 pounds and this one to carry 760, they have to be inflated to the maximum inflation or the suggested PSI rating on the sidewall. So this tire and wheel has 100 PSI rating. Now, if you don't inflate this tire to 100 PSI, it does not have 1,040 pound load capacity. For every PSI under 100 PSI, the tire loses capacity, clear down to the point that it's flat and it won't carry any load. The same goes for this tire. Another neat thing, or another thing that I want to point out, that I think people really can be misinformed when they're out there trying to select a dolly. You really need to consider that this dolly is going down the freeway at 50, 55 miles per hour, and that these little wheels are really going fast. I think it's very important that you as the operator are making sure you've inspected the tire and that they're at the proper inflation, and that you fully understand all of the things that other manufacturers are telling you. Here's what I'm telling you. Our tires on the high capacity dollies, we want these wheels inflated to 100 PSI on this tire that we're using. And in order to do that, you must be using a steel valve stem. As you can see, we have a steel valve stem here and a steel valve stem here. A lot of manufacturers are making big claims, but yet when you look at their tire and wheel, they're using a rubber valve stem. And a rubber valve stem is only rated for 65 PSI. So that's something you can watch for when you're trying to decide which dolly you want to buy for yourself. When we started trying to build our XD dolly years ago, we looked all over the entire world and we couldn't find a single aluminum wheel or a steel wheel that would hold 100 PSI. So we reached out to one of the world's largest wheel manufacturers and we had them design our exclusive in the ditch dolly. This is our in the ditch dolly wheel. This is our proprietary wheel. We own the rights to it. We designed it. And one of the things that you can do where you can have some confidence in this wheel is if you look at the back, you'll see that it says in the ditch on it. So that tells you it's quality. We've done all the testing on it. You look here, you'll see it has a DOT rating. So this wheel has met all of the DOT requirements. So you can use this wheel out on today's highways. The other thing is that it has a 100 PSI rating. So I'd encourage all of you, if you're using a different brand of dolly, to look at the PSI rating on the back of the wheel and make sure that your wheel can even be inflated to 100 PSI. You and you alone are responsible for your actions. So as a towing operator, it's up to you to make sure that the dollies are inspected properly, that the tires are properly inflated, and that you've watched all of our videos and read all of our operations manuals, and you fully understand how to use these dollies in a safe and professional manner. Now, as we wrap up this video, I want to talk to you a little bit about confidence and commitment to try to put out the absolute best product we can. When we developed these dollies, you know, we could use smaller tubing, we could use thinner tubing, we could use heavier, lighter, all them choices are with us. But our design criteria said we've got to make a lightweight dolly that's going to hold up day in and day out. We want to make it as safe as we possibly can for you to use it. We wanted to have minimal lubrication points so that you didn't have to do a lot of maintenance on the dolly. And some of the ways that we were able to achieve all of this is through finite element analysis. It's a term in the engineering called FEA, and we have computers that we can run computer test simulations on the dolly. So we tested this dolly, we found where all the stress risers were, we changed things, added strength to get this thing to carry the loads that we wanted it to carry. Then we took the dolly out and we put it in our test stand. And if you're ever in the area and get by in the ditch, I'd love to show you this thing. We've invested about $20,000 into the test stand, and we put the dolly in it and the axles, and we just run tens of thousands of cycles over and over trying to find the weak points of this dolly. Then we take the dolly and we put it in the hands of towers around the country. Currently we have them running in Canada, Montana, California, Pennsylvania, Florida, all over the place being tested to find out from people that are making their living with these things if there's anything we need to change. The result of all of that effort is what you see here, and that's why I can stand here with full confidence and tell you that I believe this is the most advanced dolly in the world. You know, in closing, I want to end with a story that I heard from my late great friend, Donnie Cruz, who was one of my mentors. And he said to me at the end of one of his classes, or actually to all of us, he said, you know, Wayne Newton, when he closed his show, he used to say, you know, thank you for spending time with me, because when you take a person's money, they make more money. But when you take a person's time, that's something that they can never get back. And for those of you that stayed to the end of this video, I really want to thank you for your time, and I'm really proud to put my name on this dolly, and I hope to see you in the ditch.